Good afternoon and welcome to GCTV and welcome to the beautiful Riesenbeck International Arena as we continue to spend our time here being hosted so wonderfully in Riesenbeck as we get ready for the 2023 Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix later on this afternoon. But before we get to that Grand Prix and before we talk about the best riders that will be competing for today's title and for a golden ticket to Prague to compete in the Super Grand Prix later on this year, it's a kind of a two-part show for us today because we want to take some time to talk about one individual before we start talking about all the other individuals. And in this world of show jumping, in the sport, there are very few that have transcended the sport much like Ludger Beerbaum has. And recently the legend announced that he'll be stepping away from active duty, and we thought, being in his backyard, quite literally being in his barn here in Riesenbeck, we thought why not take the opportunity, why not take the time to sit down with Ludger Beerbaum to talk about the incredible career that has been, to talk about the decision and the moments, what has led to them. 19 Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix podiums, 6 victories over the years in Valkenswaard, Busan, Chantilly, Hamburg, and of course that double in Doha and Mexico as well. So it's time for us to look at all of that, to welcome Ludger Beerbaum to our studio today. And can we first thank you for having us in your backyard? Has it been a stressful week for you?
Well, a positive stress. You know, I think it has been a challenge, of course, and you are, of course, also a bit excited in a way, a bit nervous in another way. But we are very, very grateful that we got this opportunity to host such an event on such a high level. We are now on the finishing line. It's the last day. And until now everything has been really gone smooth in the right way, we think. That doesn't mean that there's also areas where we can improve it, but it's the first time we are running such an event, and we are looking forward to continue to do so.
No, I think you and your team have done a wonderful job, and we have felt very at home here, so thank you very much. Ludger, let's talk about the decision that was made and announced a couple of weeks ago. Let's start with why. Why now? Why did you think the time was right?
Yeah, it's even though the weekend in Aachen, it was actually then finally a spontaneous decision. In the last 1.5, almost 2 years, I was always thinking, how long should I ride? Knowing that equestrian sport is the kind of sport which you can do quite long. But then also, I'm surrounded by a lot of up-and-coming young riders, very motivated. I see in the countries, not only Germany, everywhere here, especially in Europe, a lot of talented, skilled young people. And then I thought, to not do it too long and take a spot away on every single shows for these young people. It's probably right to not do it longer. This is a bit my personal decision, and I don't mind other people doing it much longer. But for me, I really felt it is the right moment. And it's now 3 weeks ago. There hasn't been a moment where I thought, was it really right? It feels right, really. Even though I still will experience that when the boys are leaving to the shows and I will stay at home, even though I will probably here and there follow them, but not every week or every other week. So this situation has not arrived yet, but I'm actually in a way almost relieved is maybe a bit too strong, but it feels right.
Okay, weight off the shoulders after years and years of competing at the top. And speaking of competing at the top for so many years, let's take a look back at some of the best moments in the Longines Global Champions Tour of Ludger Beerbaum.
I still have to pinch myself a little bit to believe what happened, but I could not be more happy.
And Ludger, is he going to be at his best here this afternoon?
I cannot tell you how much I enjoy this moment. I really, really enjoyed it, I must say. I enjoy winning here. The way my horse jumped, I think all 3 rounds. In the second round he touched one fence, but then the jump off was really, really good. It was really fun to come back here to Valkenswaard and to win.
Come on, Ludger, away you go. He has done. Brilliant round there.
That's really, really nice. It's still very exciting. There's 2 other legs. It's not over yet. It's still a bit to go, but I'm in a really good position and really, really happy.
He's got to really fly. Oh, what a turn. What a turn. Now he's got to fly to the last. There's the time to beat. Come on, Ludger. Go. Close. Yes. Got it.
I'm really pleased because from the 7 legs, I only did 4 so far. It's only the 7 best counting, so I still have a bit of hope.
Ludger Beerbaum now of Germany, Madly Winterschultz's 13-year-old Castello.
Just about, I would say. Come on, Ludger.
Yeah, he has.
It's a cracker.
Couldn't be more happy because it really was not something I was expecting.
Ludger Beerbaum and Mila. Come on, Ludger, come on, speed up. You're going to be one of the best combinations in the world. Ludger Beerbaum for the win here. What's it going to be? It's a win for Ludger Beerbaum.
I mean, this was definitely our best jump off ever.
It is Ludger Beerbaum. Come on, Ludger, go get it for the 2nd win this season. He's going to get it. Here comes Beerbaum, he's going to win it.
Without the atmosphere, without the crowd cheering all of us, but also me as coming from far as a foreigner here, this makes this show so unbelievably special, and thank you each and every one of you. Thank you very much.
It was that cheeky second look that I really enjoyed the most, the one where you turn and almost act surprised yourself. Ludger, looking back at some of those moments, do you let it set in? Do you let it sink in? Is that something that you think about at night? How does it feel to look back at those moments?
Well, it was very nice to see it now. I don't look back at it every night, but of course sometimes you reflect and you think what has been at which time, especially when things are not going so well. So yeah, it's almost nice to see it, and actually was very nice made. I don't know who's in charge of it.
It's all me. It's what I did at night. It's what I did in my room.
So it was really nice. I enjoyed it.
No, I'm joking. It certainly wasn't me, but I'm glad you like it. I wonder, when we were doing all the research for this, the year of 2011 came up where you finished 2nd in the title. And I asked you if you think about these moments. I know you don't spend nights thinking about that, but I wonder for the 2011 year where you came so close to the LGCT title. Do you recall that year and how good the competition was? How professional and how challenging that year was?
Yes, but normally I'm the type of person when things are digested and the analyses are made, I can also switch things off. It's not something I carry on both ways, the disappointments and the wins.
Which is important, the good and bad, to be able to put it to bed.
Looking always back and always talking about the old times and the old defeats or wins, and no, I'm not that type of person.
Okay, well, speaking of looking back, it's important for us to look back to kind of work out exactly how and where it all started, and maybe the best individual to give us some feedback on what a very young, much younger, much more handsome Ludger Beerbaum was like many years ago. We took some time to sit down with Paul Schockemüller this weekend.
I'm Paul Schockemüller. Ludger Beerbaum, he came as a young boy. He was quite successful as well already as a junior. You could see that he didn't have the best horses, but he still had results, and he was very ambitious and hard-working, and so it was a good thing for me to have him at my stable. I saw him riding. I think he was very much interested in results. It wasn't probably the finest riding at that time, but okay, everybody has to learn when he's a young guy and starts with new horses, and he did that very quick. He rode my horses, or horses which from friends of mine, but in general I engaged him, and he rode for me, and that was quite successful, and he made his career phenomenal.
What did you think was his biggest strength when he was riding?
His ambitions.
And his biggest weakness?
In reality, he has not a weakness. He tried to overdo the things sometimes, even mentality, but in general he was always very consistent, very much with his mind on his job, and did not so many things wrong. He achieved, I believe, 6 gold medals in the Olympics. He achieved everything what he wanted more or less. You can't win everything, but he won more or less the most what he could win, and he had one very good horse called Ratina, and she was fighting too, and this pair was on his time nearly unbeatable. He was not a genius rider, but he was working hard. He was very ambitious. No work was too much for him, and I believe more in a hard worker than in a genius.
Lovely line from Paul Schockemüller. I believe more in a hard worker than in a genius. And a lot of people that I spoke to over this weekend, Ludger, spoke about your hard work, spoke about your work ethic. Do you think that's what made you as successful as you became?
That is very difficult to judge for yourself. I don't know if I'm such a hard. I think there's other people working as hard as I do, you know. And there's a time in your life where you easily get an image which then people keep on transporting. For sure, I was not lazy, I can say that. But I think there's been also other people hardworking and, like Paul said, ambition. You have to also in different moments, times, situations adjust and make the best out of what comes up, and that I think, looking back in a few moments, has been, even though I've also taken wrong decisions, don't get me wrong, but I've taken on some milestones right decisions. I was able to convince other people to believe in me, in my riding ambition, and support me, because with all this support I would have never been able to be successful, and then it doesn't also help that you are hardworking.
True.
So yeah, I think in the end it's a little bit of everything, and it's a bit my education. I think we were brought up as trying to stay on the ground, work, try to be productive. That's also something which we have learned early. Yeah, and then that's, I think, a mixture of quite a few things which leads me to be here today.
If you think of that young Ludger Beerbaum that spent time with Paul Schockemüller back in the late 1980s, what do you think was the golden lessons that you took away from that stable? What did you learn the most that really helped you in the rest of your career?
Yeah, I think it's my fundament for all what has come later, there, without a doubt. I mean, I had Paul supporting me, explaining a lot of things in front of the curtains, behind the curtains, how things need to be done, managed. And then in the same time I was surrounded by a lot of good riders, especially Franke Slotak, who was there at the time, who was already a big star, winning and beating everyone, being able to beat everyone in the world, John Whittaker, David Broom, everyone. And being surrounded by him, watching him, getting tips from him, riding his horses sometimes, that was these 4.5 years made it, was my base to be able to do what I did after.
What I find fascinating is that if that was the base that you discovered there and learnt, and that transitioned you into becoming a senior rider, you seem to have taken that ability to nurture talent, to look for talent, because we're going to chat and listen to some of the current riders who have their thoughts about you. But it feels like you learned from those early years how to identify talent yourself, because that became one of your biggest strengths, it seems like, in your future.
Yes, but also then, you know, I think you have to be aware that it's very important that you don't think after some times with the experience I've made there that you know everything, and you should not have open eyes and open mind to change things. And watching the other guys, watching John Whittaker, for example, trying to getting more normally the maximum out of a horse with a minimum effort, and seeing the sport developing, the type of course building developing. You know, you have to also always think, what can I do better, what can I improve here and there in terms of training with the horses, working with the horses, maintaining the horses, and finally, of course, competing.
Well, if those are the formative years of Ludger Beerbaum under Paul Schockemüller, let's take a look at some of the riders then that Ludger was responsible for developing, former and current riders at the Beerbaum stables.
He's the rider in our sport in the last 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, he has won the most medals. He has been the longest consecutive #1 in the world. If you ask all the riders and they should ask for the best rider in the last 20, 30, 40 years, they will all tell you it's Ludger Beerbaum.
For me, what was always something special is his motivation. Every day, his fire for this sport. He retired from the big sport, but I think his heart is still burning. Also, his flexibility. You know, he has a plan, but if something goes wrong, he's also very flexible to change the plan.
All his life, he wanted the success in the end. You know, he's the most professional rider I have ever seen in my life.
He motivates the riders. It's like you say, you know, there's so many. If it's Kukuk or Philip or Marco Kutscher, it's not a coincidence that so many become good riders and successful riders. He knows when to motivate, and you know, he puts the right tools there.
He doesn't try to change you, you know, he lives with the way you are. You can be a little wilder, you can be a bit more quiet, you can be a bit lazier, you can be a bit hardworking. He really takes you as an individual and tries to work on your strengths. If you see all the riders, they have all a little bit their own way, but what unites them is I think the horsemanship and be really into details, and I think that's what makes all of them strong, and that's what they all learn here.
When you see all the riders who have worked for him or still work for him, and they were all either in the top or they are at the top at the moment, it's just something special, which is, I think, unique in the world. I think there's not another stable who has had so many riders in the top 10 or winning the biggest Grand Prix or championships, whatever. So there's something special what he does with his people.
He was a big idol for me, and I always trying to get my foot into the stable somehow, because I mean, #1, I wanted to become #1 and I want to get to #1. Got a chance to be there and prove that I wanted to be there, and yeah, and then he gave me, of course, a lot of opportunities to grow, and you know, this made me as a rider. I left from Sweden when I was 23 years old. You know, I'm 42. So I'm grateful for the time, and I hope he also is happy to see what I became.
My whole career is based on him now. Where I am now, there wouldn't be any chance to be without him. In the end, to get a professional rider and to make the step up to this level, that was all about Ludger.
He will be remembered for as long as the sport goes on.
I think this career he had won't be seen again.
The sweet taste of victory and the sweet taste of success of a career. Ludger Beerbaum, how does it feel to see the current crop of the world's best riders look at you in that light, look at you in such high regard, saying that you are the reason that they have become who they've become?
Yeah, it's really, really nice. I appreciate it, but the full truth I see here a little bit is also, of course, they would not really say anything negative when they've been asked.
They are not saying it because they are on camera, Ludger Beerbaum. They really, are saying it because you have touched their hearts.
Even more than that, they, each and every one, even though they are different, without their commitment and without their skills and their talent, again, in different ways, but being 100% focused, not having any other ideas and things in the mind, it would also not been possible. I really think each and every one, every time I work with such caliber riders, it's a win-win situation. It's not that I'm giving them everything, they also have given me a lot. Also through them, with them, I was able to move on forward. I kept my motivation, seeing them being so ambitious and surrounded by them, and it was probably, if I look back, one of the most motivating things to have such boys around every day, motivated to improve things. This is really also, I benefited for sure as much from them than the other way around.
Is there anything in your career that you wish you would have done differently now that you have the time to look back on it? Is there a particular moment, a particular competition, a particular decision that maybe you think, I could have done that differently?
Well, for sure, there's a few things. I don't know if I should really
we have all the time in the
all
world.
of them out here in front of the camera. If I would have had the knowledge and the experience which I have today, 25 years ago, I think I could have done a lot of things a bit smoother and even more efficient. Because efficiency in the end, I think, is really what matters. Also working with horses and deciding what to do with a new horse and how to train and to work. You know, I think we're doing things much better today than 20 or 30 years ago. If I just should name one situation, for sure I would not put any more this cream on Goldfever's sore feet in Olympics, even though I've done it before, winning the Grand Prix in Aachen twice. But the labs have not been so sensitive, and it was not even from the doctor. We went to buy this cream in the pharmacy. That was a stupid mistake, which was extremely painful.
I have one final question for you, and it's a difficult question, so I'll give you a moment to think about it. I want you to try and tell me what show jumping means to you. Deep down, as a human, as a professional athlete, as a man that has given everything to the sport and the sport has given everything to you, can you try and tell me, Ludger Beerbaum, what does show jumping mean to you?
In a short version, it has been my life. You know, coming from agriculture background, it was not meant to be like that because my parents were not really in the competition or riding or anything. I grew up on a farm. I think I was early connected to animals. We had all kinds of animals, pigs, cows, chicken, horses. At the very early beginning, cold bloods, which were going in the forest. Even when I started, I was a bit of a shy kind of person, and through a friend who was much more keen and brave than I was, I came to ride, got the opportunity to ride. And once I've been to a show, I had one first and one third place. That was kind of I was addicted then. And from then on, show jumping has been my entire life, trying to be successful, efficient. And yeah, I think it has been my life. I've made my passion to my job and finally ended up in being my life, and it feels really good.
I think I speak for millions of people around the world, Ludger, where I want to say thank you not just for playing host today and having us in your barn, in your backyard, but more importantly to say thank you to what you've done for the sport. We will miss you incredibly. As you mentioned, I know we will see you on site, but it will never be the same. For what you have given the sport, from what we have been able to watch and enjoy, I want to say that we appreciate you and thank you for everything.
Much. I appreciate what you did here. Thank you.
It's been our absolute pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Ludger Beerbaum.
These are some of the hardest shows in the world.
Competing against top of the world.
Each team is required to have one under 25 rider.
If you're good enough, you make it, and if not, then it's a little difficult.
It's not like a car. When it's broken, you bring it to the garage and it's fixed.
It's my special horse.
Yeah, there it is.
He changed my life.
What a start from the championship.
It's overwhelming.
It's a dream come true for me to be here.
The score now rises.
I'm stressed.
You can be on top of the world one week and then at the bottom of the pile the next week.
Oh, and it comes to a stop.
Jumping good as well.
They always say
You're as good as your last round.
Show jumping is down to the finest details.
Not trying to be fifth, just trying to be first.
Look at that! Unbelievable!
that one will be hard to beat.
Some of these under 25 riders will be the champions of tomorrow.
This feeling is...
I'm here to win and not just take part.
Welcome back to GCTV and welcome back to Riesenbeck as the clouds, the grey and the wet continue to hover over the Riesenbeck International Arena. And I just take a second to regather my thoughts after spending that moment, that time with Ludger Beerbaum, to be given that opportunity to go down memory lane with him, to thank him for those memories, to spend the time talking to former riders, talking to his trainer. It has been an incredible honor and one that I think everyone in the world of show jumping will hopefully appreciate and just look back upon and just really, really enjoy every single moment that Ludger Beerbaum has given us. For now, though, let's bring the attention back to Riesenbeck. Let's bring the attention to the Longines Global Champions Tour. Let's bring the attention back to what is going to take place on this very ring, this beautiful, irregular and unique grass ring behind us. Now, the exciting news is coming into Riesenbeck, we were banging on the drum that the top 10 riders in the Longines Global Champion Tour standings were all going to be in Riesenbeck. It was going to be arguably the hottest field that we have put together all season long, because every single member of the top 10 was here in Riesenbeck. Why am I saying was? Well, let's remind you that Michael van der Vleuten was indeed in Riesenbeck, and that Michael van der Vleuten was indeed jumping for Madrid Emotion yesterday. But out of the top 10, that is that current field right there, after a very, very tough day for Michael van der Vleuten in Madrid Emotion colors yesterday, the current championship leader has not qualified for the Grand Prix. And that means that he will not be jumping today in the competition. That opens up the window. That opens up the gap and the opportunity for the other riders to go on and make up some championship points. So everyone else that's on that list knows that there is no Michael van der Vleuten, knows that this is an opportunity to make up ground. They can once again eat into that lead of the current Longines Global Champions Tour leader. Who are the people that are looking to do that? Well, everyone in that field, but in particular perhaps Henrik van Ackermann, who stands by to give us some thoughts to what may take place today in Riesenbeck.
Thank you, Mark. Henrik, so we usually see you with King Edward in the LGCT Grand Prix, but you have Ileana here today. Tell us why.
No, I mean, she was also in Madrid, was sixth, so with one down but quick. So I hope today we can make a clear round.
And we, touching on that, Ileana was sixth in the Madrid Grand Prix. Also a big grass ring. Do you make your choices based on the ring of choice or the ground?
Yeah, for the moment, yes, because King Edward is going barefoot, so he goes only on the sand rings, so he will come back to London next time, and yeah, Ileana goes on the grass here. So.
And Ileana, just a 9-year-old, how far along is she in her development as a Grand Prix horse?
She is, I mean, she's done good things. In La Baule, she was third in the Grand Prix, and in Madrid also then was sixth. So she done good things, but of course not the last experience, but she will get more today, and hopefully something good also.
And look, currently fifth in the LGCT Championship standings. The chase is on. Have you planned ahead over the next few stages what it's going to take to catch up there?
Okay, Michael is have a good gap, but I will try. I will be on every stage, also the last one in Riyadh, so I will really try. And this week, like I said, now here with Ileana, and then King Edward will do London and Riyadh, and then I will come to Valkenswaard with another 10-year-old. That will be Khaleesi. So yeah, there's a few. I mean, Michael, of course, but then Harry and Julian is doing well. I mean, he's been winning twice, and so it's going to be a hard one, but I try my best.
You're up for the race. We just see it starting to rain. Do you think it's going to cause any issues here?
Not for me anyway. I'm early to go, so maybe today when it's raining, it's a good thing to be in the beginning and not in the end. so I have to see it positive, and I maybe have a little bit a good starting number for that.
Super. Well, thanks very much, Henrik, and very best of luck today.
Thank you.
That's Henrik van Eckermann, and we have confirmation we'll see him at the rest of the stages of LGCT. So thanks very much. Back to you, Mark.
Right, thank you very much, Grace Kelly. Henrik van Eckermann keeping an eye on the title, realizing that this weekend here with Ileana is an opportunity to make up major points. Because, as we said, not only is Michael van der Vleuten here, but a lot of the riders inside the top 10 still have either 8 contributing points to make or can improve upon their 8th best score. I wonder if Harry Smolders may well be the man to keep an eye on. Frederik de Backer standing by for us inside the Riesenbeck International Ring. Frederik, let's talk about just how and why Harry Smolders perhaps is the guy that we need to be talking about more, because if we look at the championship standings, it doesn't look like he is the most dangerous guy. Correct me and tell me why Harry Smolders seems to be one that we really should talk about more.
Basically about his tally, the number of points that he has on the championship race. He doesn't sit super high, sits inside the top 10, but he's not top ranked. But if you look at the number of Grand Prix that he's jumped, you divide those points by those Grand Prix, you see that he has produced the best consistency. He's got the highest average. He's over 30 points on average per Grand Prix. And if you look back at the history of Longines Global Champions Tour and its championship outcomes, every champion in every year over the last 16 years always scored more than 30 points per stage on average. So Smolders, also Epaillard, Van der Vleuten, De Lestre, they're all on that average. Van der Vleuten a little bit below the names that I already mentioned, but it's mainly Epaillard, De Lestre and Smolders that, if you look at the ranking just based on average points per stage, it is Smolders that has the best cards in his hand.
Yeah, we actually have a graphic to show you there to just put some numbers to it as to how and why Frederik is now pointing out that Harry Smolders is the best return on investment rider when it comes to Longines Global Champions Tour, because every single time he gets out there, Harry Smolders is contributing, is picking up more points than anyone, more than Julien Epaillard, more than your championship leader in Michael van der Vleuten. But take nothing away from Simon De Lestre, take nothing away from Abdel Said, and Malenbein Johnson then in 6, Edwina Tops-Alexander, Christian Kukoc, Peter de Vos and Henrik van Eckermann. But this is an important graphic to just try and educate us all on, that out of just 5 results, Harry Smolders averaging 30.8 points per Grand Prix makes him arguably the most dangerous man in the Longines Global Champions Tour, because every time he steps out, there are big points grabs up for offer for Harry Smolders. We are going to try and get him in our sights, by the way, to see if we can get some thoughts from Harry ahead of today's Grand Prix. I see the rain coming down. I see the wonderful Longines jacket that Frederik de Backer is wearing. Grace Kelly as well. It's all available in the GC shop, by the way, made perfect for rainy.
Little bit hold off, a little bit of the pressure. Smolders and Epaillard saying, I take it stage by stage. I want to keep my eye on the horses first, and I'll see how it goes step by step. But both of those riders have plenty of Grand Prix horses, just like De Lestre, by the way, who also confirmed that he is ambitious about this championship win. But Smolders and Epaillard really hold the pressure off and take it step by step. Maybe keeping the pressure off and just leaving it to the others to handle, and then coming out strong at the end of the season. I think that is a little bit their approach, completely different than what Van der Vleuten or, for example, Van Eckermann and De Lestre have done, especially Van der Vleuten with those very early scores that put him now in the lead. Not so much so for Smolders, who keeps it off.
All right, Frederik de Backer, I'm going to let you just complete that course walk. We'll come back to you in just a few moments' time. Talking about this course, we need to just put in perspective just how big this Riesenbeck International Arena is. If you put it into context around some of the other arenas that we jump in here on the Longines Global Champions Tour, it is frightening to see how big this is. If we talk about the biggest and the smallest, let's try to put into perspective that the Monaco ring that we jumped in a couple stages back at 28 by 75 meters will fit inside this Riesenbeck ring 6 times over. That is how big this arena is. That is how big this grass ring is, that we can fit 6 Monaco rings into this monster 150 by 90 square meters of the Riesenbeck International Arena. It means that the riders will be making their horse choices based on this. We have heard already from many of them building up to today's Grand Prix that comes into their thought, that comes into their strategizing. Which of their horses in their stable will be better suited to grass, will be better suited to a giant ring where they can really open up. That will be interesting. Well, speaking of the course, let's go back to Frederik de Backer. Course walk time.
course walk of the 11th Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix of the season, and as you can see, it is a wet Riesenbeck, ladies and gentlemen. Grass is what we are jumping on. Quickly, a question maybe, I don't know if he's ready for us, Trevor Prix. Trevor, very quickly, congratulations on the double clear in La Coruña. The rain, does this affect your preparation? Are you going for longer, shorter studs because of the rain?
No, I think the ground here has been very good. They do leave a print in the grass, so you don't need such a big stud in that regard. So I'm going to keep the same studs. The horse normally likes grass, so and we're both quite used to rain coming from being Irish and living in England, so hopefully that won't play too much part either.
I just have a flashback. In La Coruña we also stood in the rain just like this. We're getting used to this.
And that was lucky for me, so hopefully you're lucky again.
All right, then I'll let you go. I don't want to jinx it at all. That's Trevor Prix. We're just standing by the triple combination. Actually, we come from there. We come from the Bush Oxer, or what walked for me as a slightly holding 6 to Fundus. That's Simon de Lestre there with the red cap. And then there's an option for an outside 9 or an inside 8. You've got a very long and very straight approach if you want. If you go on the outside 9, you can get a very straight approach into this triple combination. You can see already that the vertical at the back is much taller, but it's basically about two things. The double of Oxers going into that combination, and I don't know how to show you, but you can just see this is going uphill. Combination at 5-8 means that it's fairly early in the course, so the horses will not have used that much energy just yet, but I do think that the forward 8, and for the short running horses this is a problem. For the forward 8 with momentum, it's a better approach than on the holding 9. Something to keep an eye on, to count those strides. It looks like you've got all the time in the world, but it's all about getting the right momentum into that combination with the 2 strides coming out of the Oxer, coming out of the triple. Then there's a long roll back, and then you come into this line. It's very close. We can just turn around and pretend it's a different backdrop. It is the line 8, 9 and 10. First starts with this humongous triple bar at 8. Then behind it you see the very tall vertical at 9, and then in the back we have got fence 10 with those yellow rails. I've walked it, and I've walked it a few times, and everybody has walked it. Now, triple bar is more about speed than about length jumping into the next line. So you mainly have a lot of pace. You won't really fly into this line that you normally have with a vertical, for example. But nevertheless, and it works again both ways, nevertheless, when I walked it, I had my 4th stride about here. This was my 4th stride, and it's just too close because this vertical is at maximum height, just over meter 60. You also have to know that this is slightly uphill, so you might say that going uphill, it gives the riders just a little bit more room. The stride will maybe be a touch shorter uphill than it is downhill. So, but keep this in mind, it's a short 4, and then maybe the bogey fence on this course is standing over there at fence number 10. Very light material, look at it. If we walk up to it, you would just casually ride past it because there's no width to the wings, yellow colored rails, no ground, and look at how high the lowest rail sits. There's nothing to back the horses off, and what's more is that once you jump this, I walked it on an inside 7. Once you jump it, you have to make the roll back to that fence over there where André Thieme is walking, and then you come into the final line. But 2 lines in the beginning stand out for me. That is the line into the triple combination, and then this line uphill, downhill to this yellow Oxer. One more line is special, but you'll have to watch to see how it plays out here in this 11th Grand Prix of the season.
Right, thank you very much, Frederik de Backer. I'm really liking that rain jacket. I'm not liking the fact that we've left them out in the rain, but that's Germany, I'm afraid. That is the reality, but I'm really liking that jacket. Frederik de Backer standing in the middle of the ring to give us some thoughts, to give us some reaction as to what to expect for the riders today as they go head-to-head for the title of Riesenbeck, head-to-head for a golden ticket to the Longines Super Grand Prix later on this year, the Longines Global Champions Tour Super Grand Prix at the GC Prague playoffs. But who then is that going to be out of this field? Who then is going to dominate this, the weather, the ring, and everyone around them to go on and lift the title by the end of the afternoon? Let's show you the standings before we say goodbye and go to today's LGCT Grand Prix. This is how it looks. A 50-point lead over Christian Kuckuck looks and feels very, very healthy for Michael van der Vleuten. But we remind you that he is not present here in Riesenbeck. Well, he was, but he did not qualify for the Grand Prix. Everyone else inside that top 10, from Christian Kuckuck all the way to Abdel Said, is here and is in the Grand Prix. Harry Smulders, as we said, the biggest return on investment per Grand Prix, earning more points than any other rider every time he comes into a Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix. But Simon de Lestre in third, Christian Kuckuck in second, Marlon Bayer-Johnsen here on H&M Indiana after an outstanding second round in the Global Champions League. All of these riders have the ability to win today's LGCT Grand Prix. All of those riders and everyone else on the field as well has that ability. Stay with us here on GCTV as we get ready for the Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix here in Riesenbeck.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome show jumping fans to the beating heart of sport and breeding in Germany. Welcome to Riesenbeck in the Westphalia region in the northwest of Germany for a clash of the titans in this very intense 11th Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix of the season. Why is it intense? Well, yesterday in the Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix qualifier, the entire top 10 was present, and to the surprise of literally everybody, the championship leader, who is Michael van der Vleuten, did not make the cut. The championship leader is not qualified for this Grand Prix. And that basically means that this is somewhat of a free ride for the others to close in on them, because from 2 to 10 they are all competing in this very wet and rainy Grand Prix. We're in for epic conditions for the 11th Grand Prix on the Longines Global Champions Tour circuit. You know, 11 of 15 in this championship race that is led by Michael van der Vleuten by more than 50 points on Christian Kuckuck. But as said, van der Vleuten did not manage to qualify. Kuckuck and all the others have managed to qualify. We'll see the standings in a minute of the 2023 Longines Global Champions Tour season, and it looked for a long time that the Dutchman was just going to make the cut, but 4 riders in front of him did better, and he dropped out. Only the 40 best out of a 53 rider qualifier made the cut. And there is the standings, the 50-point lead of van der Vleuten on Kuckuck, then de Lestre, who only has 6 counting Grand Prix results, Marlon Bayer-Johnsen with 7 counting results, Van Eckerman with 8 counting results, Smulders with 5, Eppelaar with 5, so those are the 2 to watch out for. And then Tops Alexander, Peter de Vos and Abdel Said, that is the full top 10, and they are all here in Riesenbeck, some with unexpected horses, other with world-class horses. Kuckuck on Mumbai, de Lestre on Dexter Fontenay, Johnson on H&M Indiana, Van Eckerman on Iliana, for example. That is somewhat of a more remarkable choice, but once you know that King Edward does not have any shoes on, then it makes sense that he does not bring him here to this grass ring, and he's absolutely right, because now with the rain and coming in shoeless, that would be an issue. There's Otto Becker and Ludger Beerbaum, host of this event, Ludger Beerbaum. But of course, talking about shoeless horses, if you talk about Julien Eppelaar, well, Eppelaar and Dubai, you said they have put in light plastic horses shoes to get enough grip here on this ring of the Riesenbeck International Arena, where the course has been built by Peter Schumacher. It starts on the very artistic vertical at fence 1, right by the in-gate, and then he takes you on an outside 9 or an inside 8. I think the 8 flowed more nicely to that LVM Oxer, and then straight away a 180 turn back to the Bush Oxer at 3, right by the big grandstand. Then it is what walks as a holding 6 to the Fundis Rajport upright, and then you have another choice, outside 9, inside 8. If you look at the triple combination, how it is built and where it sits, then you think that the inside 8s are a little bit nicer, certainly for the normal to big striding horses. It is Oxer, 2 strides Oxer, 1 stride vertical, but it's also built uphill, so you need quite a bit of pace and momentum. And look at the width of that center Oxer in this triple combination, 1.70 m wide. It goes all the way across and up the hill. You need a lot of power to get through that triple combination. Again, the 180 rollback to the Swans, and then downhill slightly, it walks as slightly long, but maybe downhill it gets normal. 6 to 7 on 6 strides. 9 or 10, take your time and organize well for this huge triple bar, because the triple bar is then followed by an uphill short 6 to 9, Liverpool's underneath, and then some say inside 7, others say heart to heart, others say outside 7 to fence 10. It's a very delicate Oxer there, built with full yellow rails. Rollback comes next to the GC playoffs upright, and then the final line. 90-degree approach, double combination, second of 2 combinations. It is vertical and Oxer, and how you come out of this combination decides the rest of the line. 157 coming in, only 8 meters inside, that is not much, so horses will need to rock back and back off. Then 160 across, and with that, with those dimensions, you would think that you don't get much jump out of the combination, making these 6 more jumpable by the ingate. If you get a lot of swing out of that combination, the 6 will run way short. Then long 7, but maybe on the inside you can make it easily to the Riesenbeck International Oxer Air Vertical at fence 14, and look at the length of this course. 84 seconds, if I understand well, will be the time allowed set by Peter Schumacher for those 36 riders competing in this Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix of Riesenbeck. The final 5-star class of the weekend, ladies and gentlemen. There, a quick glance, a glimpse into hospitality, and now the start list of those 36 horse and rider combinations. Somewhat surprising, 8 penalties in the qualifier, and so first to go Jessica Springsteen, Don Juan van der Donkhoeven, then Cara Evelyn Lynch, Tops Alexander, one of the top 10 riders straight away very early in. Also Said and Van Eckermann, that's within the first 8 straight away, 3 top 10 riders. Koekoek also early to go, did not qualify on a clear. Then De Vos sits in that group, and there's André Thieme, the man who in 2021 was crowned European champion here in Riesenbeck. Further down, the always good competing Ben on grass with Gerrit Nieberg, Mila and Owen McMahon, double clear in La Coruña for Highland President and Trevor Breen, and then Epayar with Dubai du Cèdre, not Donatello Doge. And further down, look who is in that group. Harry Smulders with Urikas van der Katten, Van Vreeling, Long Joel Silver, Kuhner, Electric Blue, Dallas Vegas, Ben Meyer, and Philip Weishaupt with Kobe, the American owners present here in Riesenbeck International to support their rider and their horse. Marley Bayer Johnson, Simon de Lestre, Olivier Philippard, and Richard Vogel. Is that not a surprise? Vogel is last to go, and Vogel will ride his first ever Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix, and does it here in Riesenbeck at a venue where he spent a few years. He was one of the Ludger Beerbaum riders, that Richard Vogel, and now last to go after a very intense qualifier yesterday afternoon when it was cloudy but dry. Now it is cloudy but wet. And as you can see, lots of umbrellas and raincoats out. But that will not harm us. And it does not harm the fans either of Riesenbeck International, the team that finished second on the podium last night in the Global Champions League stage. Lots of German fans here of Riesenbeck International, and thus fans of Koekoek, Weishaupt and McMahon. But first, it is the start for Jessica Springsteen and Don Juan van der Donkhoeven. Springsteen with her stallion, 14-year-old by Bamako de Muse and Heartbreaker. This stallion that joined the American team at the Tokyo Olympics to that silver medal. And the horse that jumped clear in the Paris Grand Prix at the Eiffel Tower. Jessica Springsteen with Don Juan. Mohamed Talat, the Egyptian, alongside Ludger Beerbaum. Talat is also one of those talents that has been produced and sometimes still trains here at Stall Beerbaum, the Beerbaum stables in Riesenbeck. First in, Jessica Springsteen. And how much has the rain got an effect on the grass? It's still drizzling, not raining, not hard, but there is a drizzle. And yesterday the stallion quite playful, and that is also the explanation for the rails yesterday, and qualified as last. Springsteen. Look at how easily he covers the ground. Flies over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how easy. Makes it 5 and not 6. And was that not an extra stride into that combination? Yeah, on the 9 she found herself too deep. And that makes it 4 penalties for Jessica Springsteen. No back-to-back clears for the 32-year-old American. On 6. And now, how does this ride? Already over the triple bar, beautifully positioned with her upper body, already slowing him down, and the 4 were beautiful in her hand. 7 comes round. Time allowed is 84 seconds. As she goes fairly wide in the rollback, lands here at 63.5, and now the double. How does she jump out? Not deep. That gives her the opportunity to make it an easy 6, and then the finish on 8, and she is 3 seconds inside the time allowed. She got the deep stride. We know that there is little room inside the combination. The deep stride to the second part of the double, and that put her on 8 in the end. Jessica Springsteen with Don Juan van de Donkhoven in 80.75 seconds. So where did she land? Was that 63.5 if I recall well? The rollback of the playoffs. No, that is not on the deep stride, by the way.